have the three council candidates who are competing for 2 seats in the November election. And about 8 o'clock, we're hoping to have the 2 candidates for the school board. They're in a school board meeting at the moment, and I asked the superintendent of schools, please, please, please speed it up. Get them out of there and get them down here. I'm Don Houghton. I'm the stern man on the weekly Bucksport Enterprise. And my job is to fill up that bag with the bait and see whether anybody responds. And tonight, what I'm pleased to do is to say that these folks are really at the grassroots of a true democracy in a republic. And tonight we're going to try to simulate the old-fashioned town meeting where you get a chance to speak directly with them. I will ask some questions. You will ask questions from the mic. Don't know if you're getting it, but we'll speak up and we'll get the questions. But they can come directly from you. The only 2 provisions I give as guidance is, number 1, all questions should be directed at all 3 councilors, not at any one of them. The second part is, this is not a game of sharpshooting or trapping. It's a forum. It's intended to bring out where people stand and what they want to do and what they have done in the past. It's not a chance to stand and try to see if you can bag somebody, because I don't think that's the purpose of our gathering tonight. I would ask that you hold any comments and or responses to any of the questions till the end. But beyond that, I will just simply say we're going to start with a little round of applause for them, and then at the end, we appreciate your support for them. So if you give us a little round of applause. The thing that these folks have done is they've put themselves forward either in the past or at the present. And they're basically saying, we will take the slings and arrows, because I guarantee you, no matter what they do or don't do, there are people in this room who will think it's the greatest thing that ever was, or it's the worst thing they ever heard of, usually from the same person. But that's the way it goes. So we had them draw numbers. The number 1 went to Steve Bishop, so he gets the chance to be the first leadoff speaker. Steve, we're going to give you up to 5 minutes, but maybe you could do it in 3.
See what I can do.
Yep.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm Steve Bishop, and I'm running for town council. Per the request of several people in the town is why I'm sitting here in this seat. I'm currently chairing the planning board, and I get to talk to a lot of people about town business and so on and so forth. So in the course of some of the things that we have going on, that's how I came to be sitting here in front of all of you tonight. Something I've always wanted to do through my experience with the town and working with the town, both in the fire, ambulance, and police departments. I've seen the council make moves that have been good for us. I've seen the council make moves that I've known while working for the town might be a little painful for us, but we'll get through it. And we've been very blessed. We've been very blessed as a town to have good leadership in key roles that have got us through some of those times. I remember some of the times with Chief Gagan and I would be in the bay of the police department spray painting cruisers and doing as much of the maintenance as we could, because there was just no money left. And I just think of that all the time, because that's what a lot of the town employees do with what they have to work with. They do what it takes, they get things done, and they move on. Currently, with some of the challenges that we have coming up, some of these people are going to be eligible for retirement, and they're going to have to be replaced. And replacing them is going to be very key to our function and our success. We've been very blessed with our leadership, and replacing the leadership we have with more good, competent leadership is going to keep us moving forward. And that is something that I have a very, very strong interest in being on the town council for. Being on the Economic Development Committee, I get to see a lot of the things that are just coming through the door for the town, and I'm excited about a lot of the things that could be ours, I guess would be the best way to put it. The idea of some of the businesses and people that want to come to town, open their businesses and expand their businesses, and here's the location that they choose, really excites me. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be here and to be here for you. Thank you.
He did it in less than 2 minutes. We go to Ed Rankin Jr.
Hello, thank you everybody for coming tonight. I'm Ed Rankin Jr. I graduated from Bucksport High School in 1995. Live on Route 46 with my wife Jennifer. My oldest daughter Hope, who's a sophomore at College of the Atlantic. My stepdaughter Haley, who's a sophomore at Husson College. The only boy in the family, my son Lars, is a senior in high school. My stepdaughter Isabella, who's a junior in high school. I'm almost done, hold on. And my youngest, Alicia, who's in 8th grade. I've been a councilman for 3 years now. I got elected last term, and it's been a great experience. I've loved most every second of it. I really look forward to hopefully being able to serve you for another 3-year term. There's so much we've tried to accomplish and so much we did accomplish in the past 3 years that we've started so many things. I really want to see them through for the next 3 years. But that's up to everybody else, not me. We've got a great town we live in, as you all know. After high school, I went to UMO for a couple years and then traveled the world. I was the first mate on a private yacht, so I got to see the rest of the world, but eventually came back to Bucksport, and this is where I belonged. And we've got a great leadership in all departments of the town, and we're very fortunate in that case. And I apologize, I can feel my face getting red. It's not high blood pressure, you're all staring at me. But we are very fortunate to have a town manager like Sue Lassard, and I, as Steve mentioned, want to be involved with her successor, because Sue does plan on retiring. Her contract runs out in 2025, and that's going to be a major challenge, but it's a challenge if we plan ahead and do it right. And Councilor Bissonnette is here tonight. He's mentioned this a couple times. We need to start planning now because those are big shoes to fill. Sorry, I'm focusing on you. You're straight ahead. And I'm going to end it right there for now because I'll talk about the rest later. But thank you for coming, and hopefully this goes well.
And the third person.
I'm Tracy Hair. You can hear me okay. To many of you, I'm a new face. I'm honored to be running to represent you all on town council. And I'm a person who gets to know me if you elect me to council, that I write a message, and I'm constantly writing so many ideas in my head. My story is like Bucksport's story. My story is like Bucksport's story. It's a story of resilience, hard work. It's a story of commitment to survival and a commitment to thrive. I moved to Bucksport, to this area about 18 years ago. Okay. So I moved to Bucksport about 18 years ago. Correct? All right. And I was raised by a single mother, and like many of us, I was raised in the school of hard knocks. What I learned from that experience, though, was how to roll up my sleeves and get things done, and that's why I want to run for town council today. And last year I tried. I've talked with hundreds of our neighbors over the years. I work for a nonprofit in Orland, and I've served residents of Bucksport for the last 18 years. I've listened to you, I've learned from you, and I know what it's like to be a small town with big dreams. Well, as many of, what I want to focus on, and the reason, I'm just going to throw my script out. So the reason I wanted to run for town council, the things that we're facing in Bucksport, in addition to the good points that Steve and Ed bring up, succession planning for our town manager, we've got to rebuild our local economy, and I have some ideas about how to do that, but first we have to look at our housing and childcare shortage and the challenges that our local employers have with bringing a workforce and keeping a workforce to do those jobs. So I have experience with the nonprofit I run. I have experience with big change. I have experience with big crisis, and I have experience with all of the things that would be at town council. I've been to every town council meeting for the last 2 years by town hall streams, and I have a lot of experience working and analyzing housing proposals, and I'll get more into that later about my thoughts about housing. I have a lot of experience with childcare licensing and growing childcare centers and how we can respond to that need. And I also have some exciting ideas I'd love to share with you about economic development and creating a local ecosystem here. We've got farmers, we've got seafood industry out at the industrial park, we've got restaurants to sell to, a grocery store that prides itself on selling local products. And could we build a local ecosystem right here in Bucksport? There's a lot more I'd love to talk about, but I first want to focus on us and them. I'm running for town council. This is a nonpartisan election. We all share the same roads, the same sidewalks, the same police department. I have a couple of uncles who are in the fire department, and I learned from them how to quickly respond to a crisis. You can't do that with division. You have to be there for all people. I'm the right woman for the job, and I hope you give me a chance to run and serve you on town council. Thank you.
I'm going to give you one question to each of you, and we'll do it in the same order if we might, which is, what really is the biggest challenge? I think, Tracy, you alluded to it, but you can come back to that if you wish. But we'll start with Steve. What's the biggest challenge that we face in Bucksport?
I think it's probably the idea of recovery, recovering from the changing idea that when the mill closed, what are we going to do in its place? And changing that mindset that's been demonstrated by several of our town leaders and the things that have happened to us by picking up smaller pieces, adding them all up, and placing them in the role of that one large one that we had to keep us going. And pulling out of that mindset from where we were, moving forward as the world's changing, as the economy's changing, prices going up on things, etc. To keep up with all of that and change our mindset so it's going to be profitable and not set us back is our biggest challenge.
Eddie? Yep.
I think the biggest challenge would be for us to sustain and keep going at the pace that we're going at currently. Right after I got elected last term, 4 months later, we were right into the whole COVID situation, which was a lot of fun. And all our meetings were done streaming, and everything got uprooted. We were mandated what we couldn't and could do as a council or every town organization. But I'll give a lot of credit to our town manager, Sue Lassard, that we supported her in every way we could, but we as Bucksport never stopped going forward. A lot of towns did a bare minimum or stopped doing anything, And I think it's going to hurt them if it already hasn't, because you can't stop. And we didn't. We kept the same slow, steady pace, which to me is extremely important. We do need to work on housing, because the town can't keep up. If we do nothing, the town's just going to slowly fade away. So I think that is the biggest challenge of finding that the correct speed to just keep moving forward,
Okay.
but at a pace that we can keep up with.
Okay. Tracy?
Hi. I have pages and pages of thoughts, and I'm just going to leave them here. But that's just that there are pages and pages of things that are happening now that I think every small town in America is facing. For Bucksport, the affordable housing crisis, I think, is paramount. And when I say affordable housing, I'm not necessarily meaning subsidized housing. I'm meaning workforce housing. And what's important about that distinction is that if we address the housing crisis, that in and of itself will stimulate our local economy, and it will help people out. We all need people to come here, like the town manager. Where would a new town manager live? Is there housing stock available? So that's one challenge that I would take on. And I think we've got another, I think we need to do a housing study, actually, because there's another thing. Around the 1980s, a lot of federal money went out for housing development and apartments. All of those loans will mature within the next 5 to 10 years. It's the 515, I believe it's 515 grant program. So it would be helpful for Bucksport to do a housing assessment. How many rentals are under those forgivable loans that we're already seeing in other towns in Maine where these big apartment buildings their loans are maturing and they're changing their demographic that they're serving, and it's no longer workforce or affordable. So we've got to keep an eye on all of those things. The second big thing, and it's not as easy and fun to talk about, but it is the opioid crisis that's taken over our whole state. I attend a meeting every month with law enforcement and the town manager, Bucksport Bay Healthy Communities, and it's the center of our conversation. And we're lucky we have a really wonderful police force that really models community policing. But we are in over our heads in the whole state, and I'd like to just build on those coalitions, because that as well is impacting our workforce. And that I could go on and on. I'm not sure how much time, but another part is childcare. And again, all this speaks to economic development. If we want folks to come here, or if we want our kids to stay here, where are they going to live? And if they have children, where are their kids going to go? So I can't hire a person if they have nowhere to live and no childcare. So it's all really interconnected. Thanks.
Okay. What I'd like to do now is go to audience questions. Those of you who have a question, just raise your hand, and I'll recognize one at a time. Anybody want to be first? Apparently not. Oh, is there a question back there?
Since my question is sort of connected to what you've been talking about. So first of all, I want to say I know all three of these people, and they're eminently qualified. So I'm glad to be standing up here as not a resident of Bucksport, but a business owner and property owner. Because I don't know how you take two and turn it into three good people. So that would be tough, and I don't have to do it, and I'm glad. But I totally have sort of talked to a lot of people lately, and housing is a really serious problem. But the other thing, and I sit with Steve on economic development, and I've been to many council meetings, but I also feel that things are coming Bucksport's way, which is going to aggravate things like housing even more. And I've seen towns in Maine where that has almost changed the town and pushed people out. So and I like Bucksport the way it is. I mean, I met a Bucksport girl many years ago, and I fell in love with her, the town, and her family. And I would hate to see that spirit that's here change. So I'm curious what you think as people come in. I was talking, this is not Bucksport, to Marlene Smith the other day, who is the longtime town clerk in Verona. And she said over the past year, there has only been one house sold to somebody locally, and they were from Bucksport. But every other house went to people that appeared to be escaping somewhere else. It's getting too hot, too dry, too crowded. So I'm curious how you feel that fits into the picture as well.
We'll take it in the same order if we will. Steve?
Okay. So to answer your question in many ways in just a few minutes, we have really begun taking steps to already do that. We just, the planning board just put in a subdivision approval within 2 meetings after a great deliberate review, the first meeting and diligent review by the board members over the course of that month, and that second meeting, it got approved. And that type of movement, swift movement, is what's going to continue to open Bucksport's growth up responsibly. That was a topic of how things were done during that meeting. We talked about some of the things to do with the road, the weight of the infrastructure on the town crews. The developers were willing to develop mailboxes so it would be easier to keep the road wide in the wintertime. So the town crew didn't have to move the sidewalk plow away from Main Street and take it in an opposite direction. Just a lot of little things like that, a little careful planning with the decisions that we make moving forward are what going to keep us from getting out of control and not being able to sustain ourselves.
I'll try to answer the best I can, Ron. I think the developments we do have citizens, trying to develop and make a go of are all beneficial. Park Street, Broadway Extension, I believe that's going to be a vital area in housing. I'm really hoping so for the right developer. I'm kind of on I want the town to encourage and work with and do anything possible to help these people develop, whether it be subdivisions or Park Street, if it's multi-unit buildings. I've had so many people come and be like, why doesn't the town put one in? Because I'm the last person, I do not want to see town involved in real estate or business. It would be a nightmare for everyone involved. The town takes so long to make things happen. But I do believe that the town needs to work with all these developers and subdividers. And I'm not just talking about Park Street. That's just the big one that pops in my mind because there's so much potential for that area. I guess that's my answer, is just the town needs to support 100% and do everything we can to help these places get into place. And
Tracy? Okay.
All right, thanks for the question. To the subdivision, I think that's a great idea because what we have, it's going to be a higher end subdivision, which is great because what we have right now is a traffic jam, right? We've got folks with higher incomes renting lower income apartments in Bucksport. So once those folks, the idea of a good housing system is to keep it moving and to keep it flowing. And so that means we need those higher end subdivisions so folks with higher incomes can have somewhere to live. It frees up the more affordable housing for folks at Super City Council meeting. I think it was last night or the night before. And the town manager, Chief Mosher, came up with this wonderful idea that I think Bucksport could think about, which is tax foreclosed properties, he suggested, why don't we if we are going to sell it to the public, could we put restrictions that that property is sold to somebody who's going to use it as either a permanent residency or rent it for permanent people who are permanent residents rather than seasonal? And I think that's a way we need to keep looking to make sure that the housing stock that we do have here in Bucksport serves people here in Bucksport first and foremost. We don't have the luxury right now of housing stock for people coming from all over. And that's not to discourage migration, it's really just to say this is the housing stock we have right now in Bucksport. So I think that's one solution that we could do. We could start to work with, and I think one of the things about this development, I watched the planning board meeting, and the right questions were asked. Are you using local employees? Are you using local contractors? Those are all really important when we're screening house and subdivision proposals. And I think the more we get into those questions, we are, as we assess housing proposals, we'll start to see some things open. And if you remember, a couple of years ago, Councillor Morrison mentioned, we've got smart planning on new buildings and development, as well as planning to repair older homes. That movement will start to stabilize. And then naturally, people who move here or kids who age out of home will have somewhere to live. So I think it's all about keeping the system flowing. It may not be the same answer I give you this year, if I run again, because it will change based on where Bucksport is and the economy of Bucksport. So, thanks.
Okay. Question from one of our readers was, it's fairly quickie. If we have a resurgence of COVID or its variants, there's some indications that we are. How do you feel about returning to mask indoor policy? And we'll take it from Steve.
I feel if that's what has to be done, then that's what's going to have to be done. None of us like it, but for a while there, we were all watching the CDC guidelines and paying attention to what was going on. And it's not my favorite thing to do, but it's important that we're respectful of the people that are around us.
Don't want to cut you off, but it sounds like the easy answer. You've done it. Ed?
I would simply say we did like we did last time. You have to, not that I like it, and wearing masks wasn't enjoyable, but what the CDC and the state mandates, you follow suit.
Yeah.
And I agree with both Ed and Steve.
Okay.
Yep.
Just want to get that one out of the way because I know the person who submitted it to me, and she's going to want an answer. She got it. In terms of our population, it's close to a third of our population in Bucksport is over the age of 60. I don't know who they are, but one of the things we notice in our circulation is that people don't give up the paper, but they have us transfer it to out of state and out of Bucksport areas. They still keep the paper. They live by it and all that's good stuff. But it says to me that they can't find the services they need here in Bucksport to sustain themselves independently as possible, with a little help if necessary. And I wondered if each of you have any particular thoughts about services for seniors, because we spend a lot of time. I think this town is known for its wonderful program for children and recreation, sports, and the rest. It's a big, big thing for the town. But it's interesting to see that when a person leaves Bucksport, keeps their Bucksport enterprise coming to them, the next thing you know, they've taken their money out of the local credit union or bank. They're no longer attending a local church. They're no longer putting the money in the pot when the kids come by or buying candy bars, whatever. They're not there. And it's really a continuing loss to the town to have this happen. Because in the not so old days, you had a relative in town who could plow your snow or shovel it, you mow your lawn, whatever. That's not there anymore. So again, I'll start with Steve.
So I agree with you that some things are not available for as many seniors as many resources are available as we'd like, but there's more people out in our community actually taking care of seniors than meets the eye. I see it constantly, and I saw it constantly with the police department. You don't have to have a family member in town to have a local person come plow your driveway or help you out or
Yep.
give a phone call when you need something. I know a lot of people that are not related to each other that help take care of each other.
Yep.
In that scenario, and I know of one particular that a senior citizen has someone that is not related to them come and get them and take them to some of the events at the senior center. So I think there's more positive things going on an individual basis than meets the eye.
Okay,
Thank you.
to you.
I'll agree with Steve. There's a lot more going on to assist seniors than it's in the public eye. But in the past few years, we've tried to do quite a bit for seniors. Improvements to the senior center, delegating money, more money than we proposed or initially, to help the senior center with the meals and all that. Now we've got a second full day, correct? I'm looking at Bill Foster, who runs the senior
Yep.
center. We've got a second full day of transportation. Yep, so
Yep.
that's a great benefit. So now we have 2 days in Bucksport where they can get transportation in and around town. There is always more we can do, of course. We've got to do it just as much as we do for our kids. We've got to take care of our seniors. And I believe we are in a town that generally takes care of everybody in town.
Yeah,
Even if they don't volunteer it, if somebody asks them, they'll be there that afternoon. And I'm guilty of it too. I don't always think of these situations ahead of time. If somebody asks me, of course I'll help.
yep.
But it didn't process and I didn't register it when I saw it or when, so the help is there, it's just, maybe we gotta start something to start asking.
I'd throw it out. Tracy?
Yeah, so when I think about living in Bucksport as an older person, what are the things that contribute to having a good quality of life, the livability for a person, an older person in Bucksport? And, you know, the transportation thing, I was super excited to hear we got that second day, because I think where I work, a lot of the calls are about transportation. The other thing, in the comprehensive plan, it mentioned doing a sidewalk plan, and I think there are some spots that are just really difficult for me to walk on, let alone an older person who's struggling to get around. So I think assessing our sidewalks and really following through on that sidewalk plan would be wonderful, particularly if you think about Central Street by McLeod's there, and there are some hills by the Enterprise. I think seniors, they want to by the right name, but that's super helpful. And this is a phone call to an older person just to check in on them. I think we could enhance that and develop that. We've got some great organizations in Bucksport that I think are loaded with ideas. If I'm elected to council, I'd probably want to gather those key players together and learn from them, and not just assume that I know how best to meet their needs. Certainly take care of their basic infrastructure needs, right? Transportation, walkability, but what else? Seniors want to stay in their homes, and I think Councilor Morrison tapped into this. They prefer to stay in the homes that they were raised in, or that they have spent many years in or invested in. And can we find ways to do that? I think there's a town, I was talking with the town manager about this, that has a program where they deliver buckets of sand to the person's place. And the survey that we all got last year, or was it this year? I'm losing track of my time, but about in-home repairs. All of those programs, if we could just continue that discussion and get some mobility on those ideas that are already at the table, I think the livability of Bucksport for an older person will be easier. Yeah.
I'd like to throw it back to the audience. Questions from anyone? Yes.
Hey everybody, my name is Derek Cole, and I recently read a statement that I'm going to read to you guys, and I'd like to just ask what your thoughts are on this. The only thing you need to truly transform your community are relentless incremental improvements. Can you identify an incremental improvement that you would like to make, and how would that transform Bucksport? Thank you.
We'll start with Steve.
Think about that one for a minute.
That's what happens when you draw number one.
Can we recess, Don?
Yeah.
What I want to do and what we need are two different things. Something that just happened, I got to bring it up, I would like an example of more of what I'm about to talk about. Was the Crumpet came before us, the people that are opening that business, and they stood in front of us at the board and they said, this is the weak spot of town for any restaurants being open right now. This is our weak spot, and we want to fill that void Sunday through Wednesday. And I love that. They had me at an instant yes, just based on that. I don't care what kind of food they were serving. I have not yet, no. So small changes in town or small things to be implemented like that, especially from people that come to you with an answer for a problem that they see that we don't even have to implement. We were blessed enough to say yes to this opportunity. I would like to see more of that. I would like to encourage more of that and plant more seeds to have more of those types of things take place. Thank you.
Just to shake it up, we'll give Tracy second shot, and then Ed can be third.
I don't know
I think
how
he had
I
his
feel about
answer
change. Well, actually, it's ironic that you asked that from Main Street Bucksport, because my thoughts on incremental change would include, I'm signing Main Street Bucksport up for this thought process. I would love to create sort of a local ecosystem incubator. What I mean by that is a group of local businesses, farmers, people who live and work and produce an item in Bucksport to get together and see if we can create. I don't know if any of you have read about the town of Skowhegan when they went through their big shift and the grist mill. They lost their manufacturing industry, and they've created this small town ecosystem that so they've got this grain mill, and the grain provides to the local baker. It provides to the cheesemaker. It provides to a bunch of different stores inside of that. And I'm thinking we could do that in Bucksport. We have a seafood industry. We have bakers. We have people who grow and farm. And if we can develop a local ecosystem, just in and of its nature, farmers will buy their equipment from the local hardware store, get their cars fixed at the local mechanic. It just creates a local ecosystem. And I think Main Street Bucksport could be the hub for those ideas. And these really aren't grandiose ideas. This is a farmer selling produce to the local supermarket, but also highlighting those farmers, highlighting the seafood industry at the industrial park. Incremental steps. This isn't something I think that could happen overnight, but I've seen it done in other small towns, and I really encourage you to check out how Skowhegan has done this. It's really incredible, and it's very localized, and Main Street Skowhegan was center to that. So I'd love to sit down with Main Street Bucksport and just talk about my ideas there and hear from you and others how we can move in that direction. I'm vocal for local. I think it's really important now more than ever as our food source, and things become harder and harder to access. As we know, the police department's waiting 6 months for a fire engine now, or longer, so over a year. So things are, the supply chains are hard right now. So if we can localize, and I'd like to see us we've got groups, Bucksport Next, and a lot of different groups that talk about this, but we need to make a plan now and implement that plan in steps. And I'm happy to help with that. So I'm not just signing you up.
Ed didn't want to throw you off cue, but you're resilient.
No, I would fully agree with both Steve and Tracy. Very good points. My big thing, Derek, wouldn't be so much of a change as I'm under the mentality, and as far as I know, the surveys I've seen, that what draws people to a town is school, facilities, services, and recreation. And I think we need to support our public safety, our public works, our town office. We need to support our school as much as possible. And facilities and recreation is major. Just like what you're doing, I'll put a plug in for you right now, just like what you're doing now, skate park, skate Bucksport, fundraiser Friday night, 5:30.
My chili's also.
Anyway, it's things like that we need. We need to keep kids involved. We need to draw young families here and that brings back to helping the seniors. The more younger families we can get here, the more support we can give to the seniors. And I just think the public safety is what they're going through is, I mean, what you guys are dealing with, and guys and girls, is changing daily, and I wouldn't want to be in your position. So we got to support them as much as possible, and the schools definitely. So that would be my answer of not one thing, is just maybe do better at supporting those major assets we already have and improve on them.
Okay. What are your thoughts about the empty lot on Main Street? Because it's very prominent, and it's sitting there. We'll take it in the regular order. Won't follow you up this time, but we'll start with Steve.
So my fiance Kitty and I actually talked about that night that you came to us and pitched that idea that you had specifically. And we were talking about it, and we were talking about whether or not that would work in Bucksport or not. We go a lot of places for long weekends and stuff. We were thinking about flying out to, what was the name of the town?
Batavia, Illinois.
Yeah, we were thinking about flying out there and just taking a look at it and seeing if I thought that was something that would be applicable to what we're trying to do here. But anyway, that idea aside, if that was nothing that came to fruition for the town has money in it. So what replaces it, whether it be something on the idea of something like what you had going, a recreational possible rental space scenario for the town that could be seasonal, et cetera, it's got to be profitable. We need to get our money back out of that.
Tracy?
So a couple of things. I thought the community garden idea there was good, but I also understood why, when we unpacked that, when council unpacked that wasn't a good location. Typically, community gardens with high visibility and access work, but there was no water source, and there were a lot of reasons that location didn't work out. So then I started thinking about, I've also heard your idea, Don, about a bazaar of sorts, right? Little shops, pop-up shops, and a courtyard. I think that's a great idea. Parking, I suppose, would be on Main Street. When the gentleman brought the proposal for the apartments, I was a little concerned about traffic flow. I understood he was going for a grant package with Maine Housing that would have meant the apartments would be regulated for affordability, and that's really important. But then I was a little concerned about traffic flow and parking. So I think I would, if I were on council and the planning board sent something along that had to do with affordable housing, and I'm not talking low-income housing, affordable housing, I would support
that. But I think if there was an economic venture that could be there, I'd also be really enthused and look at that as well, because I think it's a great spot, and I can imagine, like you, I think it's, and Kitty, I think that's a really exciting idea. So I'd be open to both those solutions. I don't have any unique ideas about it really that I would bring to the table any different, but I might get back to you on that.
Eddie?
My biggest thing is, as Steve mentioned, the town does have quite a bit of money invested in that at this point. I don't have the answer of what would go there. It's got to be the right scenario. And I wasn't real crazy about the housing, because I don't think that's a good fit there. And what they were designing, I don't even see how that would work.
Yep.
But it's got to be something eye-catching and profitable.
Yep.
Because you take that turn off the bridge, and that's one of the first things you see. It needs to be respectable and, you know, something that catches people's eye.
Yep.
I don't know what that is, but hopefully we get the right developer in there that comes up with the right idea.
Okay. Good, I don't want to divert attention to that particularly, but other questions from the audience? I think there's one here.
I don't mean for this to be a provocative question, but what would you do, or what are your thoughts on if a southern governor, for example, sent busloads of immigrants to Bucksport? How would you respond?
I wonder really if this isn't off the topic. I'm very concerned that we stay with things that are within the council's purview. I won't say that it couldn't happen, but I don't think it's worth spending tonight's time on. Do I have diverging views, or would you like to respond? Because I just think it's like several questions we received that frankly are way out of the council's purview, and they have to react to whatever happens, whether it's what you described or Martians landing in Main Street. Question of here.
My name is Chris Johnson. I disagree with you on that. It's called planning. It doesn't make any difference what the issue is. It's planning. We've done a lot of planning in this town. We hear a lot about all the things we need to do. We've had heart and soul. We've had the ADAPT process. We've had the comprehensive plan. I don't know if you folks are taking the comprehensive plan down and doing anything with it, but it's been around for a couple, 3 years now. They used to do that, but it's planning. It's disaster planning of a sorts, Don, and I think we don't do enough disaster planning in this town as well. And we're going to have to, whether it's migrants, whether it's climate change, whatever it is, we've got to start thinking that way. And if we don't, we'll end up having a disaster plan after the fact. But
Oh, I certainly will entertain the question. I just thought the phrasing of it to indicate a southern governor or any of that stuff
I understand.
was beyond the pale of what these people do each week to earn their $40 each week. It's now still 40, isn't it?
Not a week.
Probably a meeting. It's a meeting, right? Yeah. And a former town manager used to dock them. If they didn't come to the meeting, they didn't get the $40. But it's $40, $50 for the mayor. And several efforts to raise that by members of the council were dropped pretty quickly. Anyway, let's pick it back to the audience.
Hi there, I'm Kitty. I hear a lot about Main Street, but I've also heard from a lot of businesses outside of Main Street that they are not feeling supported. What do you guys think about that?
We'll start with Steve.
What are you doing to me?
Sorry.
It is true. The way things are evolving for us, in an example of the zoning that we just did, we just expanded the village district. So I see Bucksport, Main Street, and the idea of Main Street growing to Bucksport Village, because the types of businesses, the types of space, existing buildings, et cetera, the improvement grants, the storefront scenarios of people that have moved their businesses down Main Street, maybe onto 3rd Street, and some of the other scenarios that are going on. I see that being really important for our growth based on the logistics of what some of the businesses want and need. So I would encourage the idea of Bucksport Village.
Okay, Ed?
Of course, we need to support all businesses, not just Main Street. I think why Main Street gets the focus, like this recent match grant for, redoing your facade of the front of the buildings or whatever repairs necessary, sorry. That's what's available from state and federal grant programs. It focuses specifically on Main Street, so that's what gets the attention. There's very few grants federally and state that for North Bucksport or out back of Bucksport. They base these grants on what they consider makes a community thrive, and that is generally the downtown, the Main Street. I think that's why it gets more attention, just because that's what those grants are available for.
Tracy?
Yeah, and just to answer your question earlier about emergency planning, regardless of where people come from or who people send here, if you remember when Spring Fountain closed, I have experience working with collaborators, police departments, and those who we need to work with if any crisis hits our town that is more than one person or one department can handle. With Spring Fountain, we had 40 people. So I'm a counselor who would reach out to our collaborators. What are our resources in our town? How's this going to impact our town? And this is any emergency response that would land more than 10 people in our doorstep unexpectedly needing services immediately. So I just wanted to put that to bed. I have experience doing that. I have experience working with public safety and unpacking large crises. I think all but 2 people were redirected to different housing through a collaboration with my workplace, the town, and the police department, and the code enforcement officer. I was really proud to be a part of Bucksport. I think Bucksport's strong, and if you could have seen our code enforcement officer and police department addressing that crisis, and then some nonprofits were involved. So I just wanted to speak to that. I'm strong in crisis. I was raised in a lot of violence. I'm used to thinking on my feet and surviving, and I'm a practical thinker. But on the businesses that are out of town, it is complicated. And I think, to speak to Ed's point, we tend to follow the funding, and that tends to be a trap that a lot of towns get caught in. For example, if there were a child care center to open up out of town, that child care center would be opening up to other funding opportunities that a mechanic shop may not. A downtown facade improvement program is open to a funding stream. So I think for town councils and citizens, we need to be advocating to Augusta. Let's not forget folks who are not in downtown centers of Maine. I think that's why, as a country, we're a little bit divided, because folks in rural areas have been forgotten. And we really need to bring that focus back. Everybody's got oil bills. Everybody's got employee costs and payroll, payroll costs. So I think it's going to take some advocacy for funds to come our way for that. But I heard that from someone as well, and it's valid. I'm also celebrating, though, those folks who took advantage of that $10,000 grant. We've got a bang for our buck, double the money or more, I think.
I would also just add a personal thing, that the lives were saved at the Spring Fountain. and lives were enhanced and families kept together thanks to the police department, code enforcement officer, and a number of other people, some of whom will never be known. But that was, I see it, I also see it in the chaplain for the police and fire department. He does extraordinary things when there's a fire in town. He interrupted one time after a fire to take time to bury the family pet. That doesn't happen just anywhere. Anyway, that's just, there is a response, and I think that people do rally around to get the job done. Anyway, back to audience stuff, because, yep.
Safety Director Gagan, wasn't it Deputy Chief Winchester during that event that I believe he spent at least 20 hours with one gentleman
Yeah.
because he had no place to go? I mean, that's the type of dedication and the good people we have working in
Yeah.
this town.
And during that period, there were families living in that motel, and the children would have to wait in the street for the bus to come, and they were watched over by police and others. I would kid with the police officers that they should open a substation up there, because we knew some of the bad actors, but the bad actors were impacting some perfectly nice people who just by the fortune and fate ended up in proximity to them. So it was a real rallying around by everybody. Back to the audience, because this is about you too. Yep.
Hi, Bruce Ashmore, resident of Bucksport. I'm also the president of a local nonprofit and the board of directors of another. And I was also out and about different states, continents, and countries for many decades and came back here because the Bucksport community is an awesome place to be. And something to me, personally, and as the president of a nonprofit, that's been missing for a few years now, what helps build our community is our Bay Festival. It gives the nonprofits a place to go out, be visible, recruit members, earn a little money, but it also, to me, that was as important to Bucksport as the Blue Hill Fair is to the whole Hancock County. I mean, we even had the U.S. Navy came in and kicked my team's butt on the softball field. But that community, it's an annual visiting that everybody in Bucksport goes to at least one day while it's going on, and that's been missing for a few years now. As the president of a nonprofit, our visibility, our ability to earn some money, this church set up booths, St. Vincent set up booths. I'm the president of the Rod and Gun Club, the local Bucks Mills Rod and Gun Club, and many other organizations and crafters. It improved their visibility, which improves their viability when we do that. And what can or has the town done to get that back? The Bay Festival.
Okay. Coordination is what it's going to take. There's a lot of different groups, a lot of things in play. The days of the Navy ship being in and all the types of things that we used to have were when we were under a chamber of commerce, and coordination was the driving factor of what got a lot of those things there. The different versions of the Bay Festival we've had over the last few years have been run by different people. The coordination and the leadership of that has changed hands. So good leadership and good coordination is what would be a big part of the Bay Festival. The geography of where we're at competes with things like the Bangor Fair and some of the other things of scheduling when we've had it in the past. So to make it a success, to make it profitable, to make it good for the town, it's going to take coordination. Thank you.
To me, Bruce, it's not even just about the Bay Festival. We've seen several events here that may be just one in particular thing, and it ends up drawing in so many people. And I think the town, we need to support, and we've already talked about this, I believe we started that conversation last year, of just getting in more of these. They don't have to be a massive, full-blown event, but one extremely interesting event, and then you can have vendors and things come in with it, and do that several times a year. So we're not just putting, everything in one basket, you know what I mean? The Bay Festival used to be a great thing, and I think it just kind of petered out. And again, that's a lot to do with the chamber's no longer there. But I'd rather see 3 or 4 small events that still draw in, because we've had a couple events in the past 2 or 3 years that drew in over 500 people, and they didn't anticipate it. It just happened because it was a very interesting thing that they brought in. And that, I think, would be the biggest bonus for the town and all the vendors, because if you get that one event to draw people in, you can have all the vendors there several times a year.
Yeah, hi. I love the Bay Festival, and I think I have to agree with Steve. Coordination is a big part of it. And I also think we have to really understand, what are we asking of people to run this? If you're a for-profit business and you're footing the bill, and is that affordable for local people to do? So I think we really have to understand. First of all, I think community, when you have a strong community, lots of community events, building community in and of itself will bring tourists. If you build a town for tourism, you won't build community. But if you build a town for community, tourism comes with that. So I think coordination, again, that was under the umbrella of the Chamber of Commerce, and I'd be happy to be at the table to discuss more ideas to bring, to bring other events to town or to revive the Bay Festival. But I think we have to understand that things are changing. Life, as we all know it, is more challenging. The economy, we're all worried about our heating bills. We're worried about our gas tanks, our employees, our safety. Lots of different things are happening. So I think we have to take a hard look at a town. What do we want in this town? If we bring events to the town, are we going to buy into that? I think we should. I understand there's a public safety bill that comes with those types of services, but I do think it's important because it builds much more than just income for the vendors. And so I'd want to reconsider whether or not I would have probably supported funding the Bay Festival, and I understand council didn't, and I understand the reasons why, and I'm saying this without having all the information in front of me. But if we want community events, I think we have to invest in that as well, regardless of whether it's a nonprofit or for-profit doing it, if it benefits the greater good, right, the greater town. Are you signing up? And I want to caveat that because I think the current council has done a phenomenal job, and I want to caveat that I say that without having all the details in front of me, what it takes to police events like that, and so I'm saying it in a privileged bubble at a desk right now. So, but those are my thoughts initially. Yeah.
So wrap it up. You can do closing statements if you wish. I purposely did not push on
I'll just thank everybody for coming out tonight, for listening to us. This is by far a larger turnout than I'd expected based on the fact that it was going to be televised and on YouTube and so on and so forth. But thank you all for being here and giving me the opportunity to answer your questions. And remember, I'm from here and for all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for coming tonight. These last 3 years on council, I've very much enjoyed it. And like I said earlier, I hope to get reelected and serve you for another 3 years. We have, I'm just repeating myself, but we have so many things that we've got in the works, the waterfront, I'm not going to list them because Don's staring at me. But we've got a great town. We've got great leadership set up. We're very fortunate in that. Probably the best public safety director of any town could hope for. But we need to support all our departments as much as possible. That's the bottom line. We've got to be a community and help each other, and supporting these departments, especially public safety, which is under some severe scrutiny, and their circumstances are way beyond what they should be. But that's about it. I've got a bunch written here, but I'm not going to bore everybody with it. So just thank you for coming. I appreciate your vote if you choose to. If not, just thanks for being here and listening to me blabber on.
I want to echo what they said, to thank everybody for coming and for tuning in tonight. If you've been following my campaign on Facebook, you know what I stand for, you know how I lead, and I think I've talked a little bit tonight about what I bring to the table. I'm not here to say that town council has all the answers, but I will, if elected, be a council person that will bring all voices to the table, and I will represent every single one of you on town council. I have experience and skill in the challenges that are before us here in Bucksport today, but I'm also a quick learner, and the challenges that we don't know about yet, I'll be able to adapt and join these guys in solving those problems. So I'm a new face for Bucksport Town Council. I'm not a new face for Bucksport. I've been working in this area and living in Bucksport for the last 18 years. I certainly served my sentence, and I'm asking for your vote. And Tracy Hair, November 8th, I think I'm the right woman for the job, and I look forward to talking with you more if you have any other questions after the event.
Thank you. I want to thank all of you for this. We're going to take a 3-minute break and then bring in the reserves from the school board. I hope they're both here. And I just wanted to say that Brown Hall has sure come alive in the past 6 months, a year, and it's a privilege to be here. I appreciate your cooperation. I think we've met some people, and my final comment on this, though, is these 3 people and the 2 that are about to come in for the school board, it's an interesting situation. We do not endorse candidates at any level. But no matter who you vote for, Bucksport's not.
Before you dismiss for a bathroom break, they're all around the corner. I'm Dr. Stephen York. I'm the minister of the church next door and executive director for the Brown Hole Community and Cultural Arts Center, where you sit. I want to remind you that one of the things the town manager said was communicating and getting out what's going on, talking about grassroots stuff. We need help with that, folks. So I'm going to take this opportunity to just say for the record to all of us that on Thanksgiving Day, there'll be a free public Thanksgiving dinner here in Brown Hall. You just need to call the number 469-3333. It's a great opportunity for communication and fellowship. The chefs are from the Friars and Christ Church Anglican that uses our facility on Sunday afternoons are hosting it, and I'll be here to wave and smile like and welcome you. But if you know anybody, and it's not restricted to any age group or demographic, everyone is welcome. So please help pass that along. Everyone is welcome. We don't want anyone to be alone, or anyone that wants to be, you don't even have to live alone, but you want to be part of community, which is what we're dedicated to here. So help us get that out. And that will, there's no seatings. The food will be served between 11 and 2. Show up, and there'll be a place here for you. The other thing that I want to draw your attention to is the artwork that's behind you on the stage. Every Wednesday morning, there's a group of seniors who gather here free of charge. It's called the Grace Group. It's not a religious group. It's grassroots arts and community education. And their art is not only exhibited at the Crumpet, but it's exhibited here. If you look down the hall, we're committed, and it's just a wonderful fellowship. And people come, and it's not a class, but people just are able to express themselves through the arts. And so I just ask for your help in getting those messages out. The Grace Group meets 10:30, I think, to 12:30, and we're happy to be here. I find this is a great place to be, and so it's been our privilege to host this. I will say that, remind you that next week I'll be moderating the House and Senate candidates here in Brown Hall, and I hope that you all will come. Thank you for taking